Patrick Bailey is widely regarded as the best defensive catcher in the MLB right now. And his team just dropped a video showing you exactly what he does before every game to be the best. But if you watch it and don't understand what to look for, you're not gonna get as much out of it. And so in this video, I'm gonna break down my 10 big takeaways as a catching coach, what exactly his pregame routine was, and what it means for you as a catcher or parent coach of a catcher. And as a bonus, if you stay until the end, I'll give you his exact pregame checklist that you can do before every game. So here's my 10 big takeaways. First is timing and compounding. So let's talk about the micro timing in sequence of when he was doing his catcher drills compared to when he was actually playing. He would do it pregame, and it seemed like it was probably about for 30 minutes that he was doing his work. The video is like 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm sure they edited the video, and so I'm guessing it's about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes that he was doing every single day before the game. That makes sure that he's fresh and sharp right when he needs it the most, when he's gonna actually play in the game. From a macro time perspective, the big thing that stood out to me is how he talked about how when he does this every day, it's 30,000 reps over the year. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the math was that he was doing on this, because he said if I do 30 of these a day, it's 30,000 reps over the year. But if you reverse the math, you take 30,000, divide it by 365, that gives you a number just over 82. So if you do 30 reps of throwing, 30 reps of blocking, and 30 reps of receiving, that puts you at 90 reps. That's 30,000 reps over an entire year. That's crazy. My second big takeaway was the individual focus on skill development. When you look at how his skill development time was structured, it was in-person training, one-on-one with an expert catching coach. It was progression-based, meaning that they're going through drills in a progressively harder and harder way. And it was data-informed. You heard the catching coach mention how Patrick Bailey was one of the top 5 to 6 blockers in the MLB. That means that they're looking at the data, looking at what he's best at, looking at what he needs the most help with, and they're customizing the training around that data. My third big takeaway was that they kept it fun. You see this through their playful and uplifting communication, and even how they talk about each other. Patrick Bailey's like, I get to work with the best in the world. And the catching coach comes back and says, well, the only reason that I'm the best in the world is because I work with the best players. They're lifting each other up the whole entire time. You'll also see this when they're playing catch throwing knuckleballs, and Alex Berg, the catching coach, is joking, you're gonna kill me because your knuckleball is so nasty. And again, they're having fun with it, making sure that they're having a good time. The other thing you'll see when you watch the video is one of the coaches holds the door shut as a little bit of a prank. Again, just trying to keep it light, keep it playful, keep it fun. My fourth big takeaway is they focused on what happens the most. When you look at what they did, they started by playing catch, so by throwing, and then they went into tag plays because those are super critical and they happen all the time. Then they did receiving drills, then blocking drills, then transfer drills. Those are the things that happen the most, and therefore, those are the things that you should be practicing the most as well. The fifth thing that stood out to me is how they went with their strengths, even if they were unconventional. The big thing they talked about for this was Patrick Bailey's unique arm slot, where he's a little bit more 3/4 or sidearm. Most catchers are traditionally over the top so that you get that pure backspin and carry. But Patrick Bailey's catching coach at the time was a guy named Craig Alvarez, and he was looking at Bailey throw and saying, you know what, I think that this could actually be a unique strength that you have. Let's just roll with it. So instead of changing it, they just used the unique strength. My sixth big takeaway was the amount of balls that they used. They used 4 different types of balls. I'm gonna break down what they are and what they use them for. So first, they used a regular ball. That was for playing catch and doing some receiving drills. Second, they used heavy balls. They did that to throw and warm up the shoulder, as well as throwing balls back to the catching coach when they're doing receiving drills for that low pitch. Third, they use soft balls for blocking, which makes a lot of sense. They already have a lot of wear and tear on their body. If you take a ball off the forearm or whatever, it's gonna hurt a little bit. So they just used a softer ball so that when you're doing that pregame, it doesn't hurt if you mess up. And then fourth, they used light balls. They specifically did this with a net glove or a keyhole glove, trying to find the pocket and really exaggerating the shapes that he was gonna see from the pitcher in the game later that day. My seventh big takeaway was about the training difficulty, and they're really trying to pull 2 levers. One, they're trying to increase the training difficulty, and 2, they're trying to decrease the risk of injury. Patrick Bailey jokes that they catch about 15% of the balls in the pregame routine. That means that they're dropping like 85% of the balls. And these are his exact words. I'm just trying to get my timing right and get my path right for the catch. Plus, some of the drills that they're doing, they're not even trying to catch them, they're literally trying to flip it back. And with the foam balls and the keyhole glove, it's okay if they miss it because they understand, again, we're working on timing and path. This is supposed to be exceptionally harder than it is in the game. That's why it's faster speed, bigger shapes, and you gotta be okay not catching them 100% of the time. And the way that they're trying to decrease the risk of injuries is really by using the right type of ball. I said this earlier, but they're using the softer balls for blocking just so it doesn't hurt as bad and it doesn't cause any injury. And for a lot of receiving stuff, they're using the light balls just so that if you do catch it wrong and it hits your thumb, it doesn't actually hurt your thumb because that ball doesn't have enough weight to actually do that. My 8th big takeaway was how much they use the machine. I talk about this all the time. A machine is so helpful for catchers. They're called pitching machines for hitters, but catchers should use them just as much, if not more. They use this for pretty much every skill: receiving, blocking, and throwing and transfers. It's a really helpful tool. I would highly suggest looking at along with how they incorporated the different balls into the work that they were doing. So my 9th big takeaway was some of the language that they used around skill development. So we'll tackle each one individually. We're gonna start with receiving. When you watch the video, you'll hear the catching coach Alex Berg talk about how they're trying to make impact at 90 degrees. And originally, I thought that he was talking about his arm being at 90 degrees. And I was like, wow, that seems really deep. Like, I like having a bent arm. Some people teach, having an extended arm at catch, but I like more of a bent arm, maybe like 120 degrees or so. And he was saying 90 degrees. As I watched it a few times over, he's not talking about the angle of his elbow. He's talking about the angle of his glove. And specifically in the drill that he was referencing, they had a heavy ball and they're tossing these balls and Patrick Bailey's kind of flipping him back to him in the air. And he said 90 to 91 degrees, meaning it's flat or a little bit raised, because again, that ball is coming down. We need to take it up. And sometimes what happens when guys are working on this move, when they go from the ground up, is that glove is back like this. And that's why if you ever have a ball like roll out of your pocket, it's probably because at impact, your glove is not at 90 degrees. It's probably further back. And as a result, that ball is sliding. We really want that thing to be about 90 degrees or vertical at impact, so then we can catch it through and really bring that thing back to the shoulder. The other big things that I heard them talking about while working on receiving were wait as long as you can, specifically on that low pitch, and then clear paths, open pockets. I heard that a few times. Make sure you listen for that as you watch the pregame video. When it came to blocking, what Patrick Bailey said was the very most important thing was centering the ball on his stomach. I agree. I think that is ultimately the game. If you're at home, I think one of the best ways to think about this is it's your job to decide where the ball is going to be laterally, and then you stick your glove there, and then you catch your body up. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. And what you heard from Patrick Bailey is that he's trying to just center everything right on his belly button. Another thing that just stood out to me, they didn't say this, but when you watch Patrick Bailey move from a single knee and block side to side, he looks like he's gliding. He looks like he's on ice. Like, he's so smooth. That should be your goal if you're a catcher working at home too. The other thing that Patrick Bailey talked about from a mindset standpoint to make sure that you're ready to block is a few situational things. He said, make sure that you understand the pitcher of who's on the mound, what type of break his pitches have, where he typically misses, who's gonna miss in the dirt, what kind of bounce back it has when it hits the dirt, and be especially aware of this if there's 2 strikes or there's a runner on. Now let's look at throwing, and this is maybe the most interesting one out of all the skills. One big emphasis that they had was getting to the side of the ball. And the reason for that is, if you catch the ball over here, then you have to transfer it all the way over here. Whereas if you can just get on the side, you can just transfer it right here and it's already in your throwing path. You don't have to move it across your body. Another thing that really stood out to me was how much they were practicing picking balls in the dirt and back picking. And one thing the catching coach said that was so interesting is he said Patrick Bailey's gotten so good at picking the ball in the dirt and back picking that it's changed what runners do. Typically when a runner sees a ball in the dirt, they take an extra shuffle because they're looking to get to the next base. But with Patrick Bailey, now, if there's a ball in the dirt, there's a really high likelihood that that ball is going to be on the bag. And so when they see ball in dirt, they actually start going backwards. And he said that that's resulted in a few times this year where there's been a ball in the dirt that he's tried to pick that has gotten to the backstop that the runner did not go on because they went backwards when they saw a ball in the dirt rather than going forward. So he actually saved a base by not blocking it, but by being so good at throwing it on the back pick that the runner just automatically went back, even though it got by him. Really interesting. Another thing he talked about with the transfers is that he compares it to turning a double play from shortstop and really starting with that pre-turn. I saw another video recently talking about how JT Realmuto will do essentially a reset footwork, which is where you kind of shift your body or reset out of that, right knee down modified kick. You bring the foot back and even turn your body a little bit more so that we're already getting to the side and that then we're able to just turn and go faster rather than having to rotate our body all around. We're just already kind of pre-turned. Another point on that I thought was really interesting was if you have a left-handed batter versus a right-handed batter, it changes what his actual footwork looks like. So if there's a lefty, he gains extra ground and will kind of sweep out around. But if it's a righty, you can't do that because the batter's right there. And so you have to stay tighter and stay further back and throw. And so when you look at videos of him, if there's a lefty in the box, he'll oftentimes end up gaining a bunch of ground over in his right-handed batter's box, clearing space from the batter. But if it's a righty, you can't do that. So he's got to stay a little bit tighter and just get his foot down super quick and stay back a little further. Really interesting. I think that's something that you can immediately implement at home as well. The other thing, and this is really crazy, he's been averaging this year a 0.58 exchange time, which is really, really good, with throwing it 88 to 89 miles an hour. That's his average. That's really crazy. So those are some good benchmarks and goals for you. If you're at home or you're a stud senior catcher, there you go, there's the standard from Patrick Bailey. My 10th big takeaway is the difference between training a beginner and training a pro. With a beginner, you really can't do all of the stuff that Patrick Bailey did because you need to do it correctly. And so what that means is you should really pick one thing, repeat it over and over and over until you get it right. And you should break each part down step by step. Once you go through those routines and you're doing them correctly, then you can go into more of kind of what Patrick Bailey was doing as a professional, which is just stacking the routines and getting tons of reps going through all of the different drill work. So again, if you're a beginner, do one thing at a time and do it correctly. When you're a pro, you already know how to do everything. It's about stacking good reps and working through different progressions to make things harder than it's gonna be in the game. So now let's talk about what his exact pregame routine was. I have it on my notes. I'll give this to you at the end of the video as well. They started by throwing, doing weighted ball stuff, working on hip-shoulder separation and different arm angles and foot positions. Then they played catch. They did knuckleballs to keep it fun. They threw at just over 120 feet because that's how far home plate is from second base, 127 feet and 3 inches. And again, mixing arm angles and body angles so that all the fancy, sports center plays that he'll do, he's already practiced that before during pregame. Then they do tag plays, down the middle, short hops, all that kind of stuff, just getting all of them in. Then they went into drill work on the fundamentals. Started with receiving, did left knee down heavy ball, underhand toss. So they would find the pocket and launch it back in the air with no squeeze with a 14-ounce ball. What they're looking for is route efficiency across all the different locations. This is a really good drill. I would highly suggest, especially for you high school catchers, you should absolutely be doing this drill. Then they went to light flight machine keyhole drills. So they got the light flight balls in the machine, big shapes, keyhole, working on timing and glove path and making sure that that pocket is there and not turn. That's how you hurt your thumb when you take the pocket away. It's not that the fingers are down or that the pocket is down, it's that the pocket is hidden because our glove is turned, and so really working on that. And that's why Patrick Bailey is statistically the best at this low and end pitch when you look at StatCast. And then they did regular ball with a paddle off of the machine. Again, not even squeezing, just working on that path, working on staying down and just shooting that thing back up in the air. Then when it came to blocking, they started right at him with left knee down and right knee down, all from the machine. And then they moved to lateral blocks, and then they moved to decisions. Pretty standard progression right there. When it came to transfers, they threw to all bases, and they used all different types of footwork, including from their feet and from their knees. They also mixed up location, meaning it was right at you, it was glove side, it was arm side, it was in the dirt, it was high, because that's what's gonna happen in the game. And they did that all to second base and then third base and first base. So here's what this means for you if you're a catcher or a parent or a coach of catchers. First, if you don't have a pregame routine, you should absolutely start having one. There's pregame hitting, there's pregame infield. If you're not doing pregame catching, you're at a step behind from the most demanding and most important position on the field. You can literally just copy Patrick Bailey's routine that I'll give to you at the end of the video. Second, I would focus more time on the skills that are costing you in the game. So what that means, if you're struggling on blocking, maybe specifically lateral blocking to one of the sides from a knee down stance, spend more time on that. Make sure that you're plugging the holes to actually control the baseball. That is your one most important job. Control the baseball and help the pitcher succeed. Make sure that you're working on the things that are costing you in the game. Third thing it means for you is make sure that you're doing each piece right. I would try to avoid jumping in and installing an entire pregame routine and going from 0 to 100 because you're probably gonna do a bunch of things wrong. There's a concept that I use in my coaching called channel capacity, which is the idea that a channel gets overwhelmed and breaks if you do more than one thing at a time. And so what I would say is do one thing at a time, do it really well until you have it down, and then move to the next thing while you continue practicing the first thing. Patrick Bailey can do all those progressions so quickly because he's done all of them one by one and gradually worked his way up through the difficulty. Make sure that you do it right first before you move on and add in another thing. And by the way, that's exactly how my online coaching program works, where we work skill by skill, progression by progression, until we install a perfect practice routine after 4 weeks that makes sure that you have a pregame routine that you can do perfectly step by step every single day as we add in more advanced skills and advanced training specific to where you are. And the fourth thing this means for you is you need individual skill development. Patrick Bailey is working in person with a professional catching coach one-on-one every single day for about 30 minutes. And while you might not have access to a professional catching coach in person every day, you might have access to an expert catching coach in your area that you work with once a week. The issue with that is sometimes you go out of town, they go out of town, they move on to another job, or they go play somewhere else, or you get sick, and the consistency dies down, and you can't really tell if you're doing things correctly throughout the week. The next best option is to work with the catching coach who can turn your parents into a great catching coach and give you feedback and give you the plan and give you the structure to make sure that you're actually developing at home. And if you want to watch Patrick Bailey absolutely crush his pregame routine, watch this right here. And finally, if you want a pregame checklist that you can print out and have in your dugout, just go to catchingmadesimple.com/pregame, and the link is right down in the description. I'm Coach Bougie. I'll catch you later.